All right. Hello, hello. Today we're going to talk about the hopefully soon to come warrior changes. I'm really here to only talk about the one change that actually matters, and that is the merciless change, where now we are getting the frenzied strikes removal of the crit buff to mercy. So originally, frenzied strikes, this really is kind of just a PVE move. Nobody really uses it in PvP. You have to be really adept in warrior to understand how to use this in PvP. And realistically, the only actual use it kind of had was the 5% critical hit damage, which is pretty good. It's actually decent. So like what good warriors would do, they would, do something like this, boom, buff up, hit this, bada bing, and then, just kind of like maximize their damage with the 5% buff up and stuff. So like you would do something along the lines of that to get maximum damage, which there are better ways to go about doing that sort of situation and getting better damage output. Like, is it good? Yes, I've even put it in one of my combo videos before. It's okay. It's just not my preferred way to get damage out, so it kind of was mid at best. But merciless, it getting changed to that's big. So essentially the merciless buff, we get DP, which is garbage. It doesn't really do anything for us, and it's not really used in PvP a whole lot. I think there's only a couple warriors on the game that even use core merciless. It was like me, Franco, Yoon Woo, and like Yoon Woo's the Korean PC player, but that's like where me and Franco were getting it from, and we were using core merciless for the longest time, and then we kind of just got used to it and swapped up to core grave digging instead. But now with the change, it being more viable now, because you can cancel merciless into a lot of different things. So for those of you that are like kind of newer warriors, this may not necessarily apply to you because this is like super advanced cancel tech. But essentially with merciless, you can block cancel into a ton of different things. You can block cancel into overwhelm, you can block cancel into grave digging, solar, really anything. I mean, you could do like some fancy stuff like boom, bada bing. You see what I'm saying? Like you can do a lot of goofy stuff. I didn't mean to do frenzy strikes there, but like, yeah, like you could do a ton of stuff as well. And it's like you can, like just block cancel into a million different animations and whatever. So that's why this change can be potentially really just insane, because it opens up more avenues for advanced warrior players that know how to do advanced block cancels, and it just kind of raises the skill cap just a bit to utilize something that can be pretty niche, but maximizing that damage is going to be huge. Not to mention you can layer CCs on top of things like right here, like boom, float, and then I keep doing that and I don't mean to do this. Why I keep frenzy log? This shit is ass. But yeah, essentially you're just going to be able to use merciless in combos, which is going to be a bit more difficult to do to maximize damage. It's better than frenzied strikes for sure, and it's actually feasible to do it in combos. Like you could do something probably along the lines of this, where you go bada bing, bop, bop, bam, bam, boom, bop, and then yep, just get a nice little combo like that. It's quick. It's efficient protected damage. You're going into, because I've got core mercy, so it'll be forward guard, unprotected gap, and then SA, and then you go into double SA with what do you call it, grave digging slashing. So you could do some pretty optimal combos in large scale with that. Let's say you just get like a grab, right, and you just want to like go into some protected damage, boom boom, one minor gap, and then you get full big damage, right? And I'm experimenting with add-ons too, just as like a heads up. So I took out my solar flare add-on because in large scale I don't solar flare into people because it's usually a death sentence, and that's because I don't run core solar flare. So like, whenever you solar into an enemy, chances of you dying are pretty high. And even like, I do uncapped wars 90% of the time, so like it doesn't make sense for me to run solar flare core. It just doesn't work in terms of like efficiency for me. So I know a lot of warriors, you run core solar and they're doing advanced stuff, whatever, going into things like that. I rarely solar flare into an enemy. In fact, I don't do it at all. Instead, I prefer to like solar flare around my opponent and then like go for a CC behind them or something along the lines of that. And nine times out of 10, I'm not even doing that. I'm even going off of balance. So like this, I do this instead, where I add balance at the end of it to kind of add an extra dynamic that they have to think about. So like solar flare, just in terms of like me using it into an opponent and getting the add-ons off, that's kind of like a 1v1 sort of thing. So it's like you would go into something like this where you go into solar flare and then maybe you want to do a little something goofy or whatever. I don't know. Like it's a 1v1 thing because it's for Eva shred, right? Like that's the whole point of solar flare, is like you are going to like Eva shred your opponent because it's -6% evasion rate, and then you put add-ons on it for 10%, so it's good. Plus you buff the accuracy with more add-ons, but I don't find it that useful in large scale, and for me, I'm strictly a large scale player, so I don't find that many uses in it whatsoever. I prefer to just use balance to get behind my opponent and make it more efficient from a like solar flare balance standpoint. But anyway, yeah, so I took my solar add-ons off, put it with merciless instead to maximize damage. So for the way I decided to go about things, I'm not even sure I'm going to keep it this way, but I do plan to put a mercy add-on just to add more damage. So we're layering accuracy rate and evasion, so that way in case we do happen to catch an Eva target, we at least kind of debuff them to a like sort of you know, like just a point where we can actually maximize damage from our drop. So from a merciless standpoint, let's pretend we don't get a grab and we don't get to like armor break and stuff. So like, you know, we do something like, let's say catch him with overwhelm, right? So you hit him with overwhelm. You could do merciless into grave digging, so you could do something like this. Boom. Oh fuck, I canceled it too soon. I mean, that wouldn't even matter if you cancel it. Like the good thing about mercy, right, is that like if it works the same as it does now, you can block cancel merciless as soon as the like before the animation even happens, which results in like you don't hit your opponent whatsoever. So if we take a look here, we can cast it and then block it and we still get the DP buff. We still will have it running regardless. So if it functions on the same principle, we should be able to just use mercy the way it is and then just cancel it, the animation altogether, and just get the 5% crit buff if we want to get the damage. However, if you plan to put add-ons on it like I plan to do, that you're going to need to hit your opponent where you're going to need to, you know, actually do some, you know, whatever and whatnot. So that's going to be up to you whether or not you just care about the 5% crit, or if you want to maximize by getting the add-ons plus the 5%. So you do this, boom, boom, and then boom, catch like that, and you can maximize damage that way. This way, in large scale, you can fit the slashing, right? And then you can just kind of get all the benefits of like the add-on. So essentially we're getting the accuracy and evasion, the buff and debuff for your opponent, and then we got the overwhelm, down attack, crit, and then on top of that we have the grave digging, which will give us the DP and then attack casting speed on your opponent down. And then yeah, it's pretty nice. I kind of just I'm gonna prefer this way of playing over a ton of other things. And another thing that I'd like to point out, if you are quick enough, you cannot double layer CCs in terms of getting the CC cap, right? So for example, if you try and do merciless into overwhelm, that you will not CC cap them. So you could see right there, I did merciless overwhelm, no CC cap whatsoever. So if they resist the first one, there's a high chance the second one will hit, and that's good because you're layering CCs, and even if they both hit, you won't CC cap them, which then will allow you to go ahead and go into you know, another animation that you want. You could do reckless for a KD, you could go into ankle break for a bound, and then pulverized tempest. Ton of different options from that regard, which is really nice. Honestly, I kind of low-key like fuck with that a lot. I'm trying to see here like what I can do so I can go pop pop boom 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 boom. See how we didn't CC cap them there even though we used double floats? That could be huge. So maybe if I do like, let's see, yeah, and then bam. See what I'm saying? Could be something like that. I don't really like to do ankle in the pole in large scale because it's very dangerous. It's like if you're in a ball or whatever, that's kind of like a outskirts fighting tech that you're doing, right? Like if you use ankle break, you're probably going to get hit out of it and die. And even if you use pulverized tempest, it's only a forward guard, so you have to position really well and posture it away where all the enemies are in front of you and not behind you, so that way you don't accidentally get knocked out of it. So you have to be really careful with that. But for the most part, I think that that'll be really huge, where we can just kind of go into a ton of different options where we're going to get some pretty good damage optimizations here with the merciless change. I think that's going to be like absolutely fun, if I'm being completely honest with you. And I'm sure a ton of other warriors are going to come out with some other optimization like combos and stuff like that, where they're just going to do some absolutely frenzied fucking combos where you're doing a million damage and whatnot. But until then, we'll see what's going to happen. But I'm really excited for the mercy changes. I hope they stay and the properties remain the same, and the rest are actually just kind of really good buffs in general for grinding. Most of them are just kind of meant for PvE buffs, but this one merciless change does apply to PvE, or PvP I should say. It does change the dynamic a little bit of how we're going to be able to get damage out. So instead of relying on frenzied strikes for the crit, we're now going to be able to kind of incorporate mercy into combos, which is a lot more viable than using frenzied strikes. But yeah, I thought I'd just kind of talk about it and just mention it for a moment for any of my warrior enjoyers out there. Might have some pretty nice optimization choices for damage now. But anyway, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.